Hello, welcome to more yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining to me, or with me today, joining me today. I hope you're doing well and your brain's working a little bit better than mine. And if not, that you'll feel better after this class. You can see I have some blocks today. These are going to be handy if you have something that you can use to bring the floor up to you, even like a kid's stool or cans, something that will give you support. So not anything too wobbly, but will bring the floor up to you. If you don't, as always, no big deal. You're just gonna have to work a little bit harder, and that's okay. Sometimes working a little bit harder is all right. I always like to have something to kneel on to give my knees a little bit of extra padding. And the cool thing about kneeling up on something, we haven't talked about this in a while, is that all of a sudden your femur, right? If you're kneeling on this, for example, your femur gets this 2 inches, inch and a half, whatever, longer, thereby lengthening the lever, which means that you get a deeper stretch. So not only do you get cushioning on your knee, but you're also getting a deeper stretch, usually in the hip flexors, if but also any other stretch that you end up doing. So, sometimes people talk about props as like, oh, you'll grow out of them. If you do yoga enough, you don't have to use props. I like it the other way around, in that if I use props in my yoga practice, I'm getting the benefit of them, but also I feel like it makes it easier on my body, and that I can continue to practice yoga for the rest of my life, so long as I, use props. Anyway, don't have to use them if you don't want to. Let's start. Let's start in child's pose. We're going to do a slow flow today. Super simple. Um, at any point, rest if you want to rest, add on if you want to add on, but we'll start in child's pose. If child's pose isn't great for you, you could roll onto your back and hug your knees into your chest instead. And you can take some time settling into child's pose. Sometimes I like to do a little sway from side to side just to loosen up my hips a little bit. You could have your knees together for sure in child's pose. That's going to give you more of a release into the low back, but it's a little bit harder to breathe. You get more compression through the belly. That's why I like to take my knees wide. And you could always stack your forehead on top of your hands or fists. If your hips are up quite high and it's uncomfortable, you could bring a pillow in between your bum and your heels just to give yourself a little bit of support. And then arms could be extended, but let your elbows drape to the earth so there's ease to start with. A few breaths here. Inhale through your nose and exhale, sigh your breath away. A couple more. And then continue breathing however you need to. It could be in and out through your nose or your mouth. Notice how your breath is flowing here. It might feel a little bit more constricted. Maybe it feels totally open and spacious. Simply notice. And with every inhale, imagine your spine lengthening from your tailbone all the way up to the crown of your head. And with each exhale, feel a gentle softening of the front body toward the earth. Inhale to lengthen through the spine, and exhale to soften. Last few breaths here. And then bring your arms outstretched in the middle on your inhale. Start to walk your upper body over the left edge of your mat. So we're coming into a side stretch while in child's pose. It's normal for your head or your hips to lift a little bit here. It could be as gentle or as deep as you want to. You could clamp down on top of one hand with the other to get more traction through the spine. And then as you inhale, breathe into the right side of the body. Puff out your ribs. And as you exhale, lengthen your right sit bone back toward your heels a little bit more. And one more breath here. And then on your inhale, walk through center and then over the right edge of your mat now. So getting into that left side of the body. Again, you could clamp down on top of one hand with the other. You might start to breathe now into the left side of the body, kind of exaggerating that movement. And then exhale, lengthen the left sit bone back toward your heels. And on your inhale, come back to center. Slowly start to press yourself up to hands and knees. Little wiggle or shake or cat and cow here. Hands nice and wide. And then pause a moment in the center. Let's actually deliberately go through cat and cow. I should say, actually, before we do that, you could step out one leg back behind you and then the other. We were in child's pose for a long time, so it can help release the compression on the back of the legs. All right, and then now let's inhale. Lift the tailbone, hollow through the lower back, broaden through your collarbones into cow. Exhale, tuck your tailbone under, round through the spine. Press the floor away from you into cat. And then inhale, dip into cow. Exhale, round into cat. So a few more of these undulations on your own time. Just see if there's any other movement that would feel good here. If you have any sticky parts in the body that you need to get into. Right? It might look nothing at all like cat and cow. That's totally fine. I want you to go where your body needs you to go. All right. And then come back to center. Hands nice and wide. Fingers spread wide. Grip the mat with the finger pads. Tuck your toes. On your exhale, lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. So here you could pedal your heels toward the floor, bending one knee and then the other. You could wag your tail a little bit from side to side. You could even shift your weight forward and back a little bit. But then try to find a couple moments of stillness here. Lots of length through the upper body. Little hug of the upper arm bones toward each other. Your legs might never get straight in downward facing dog. Your heels might never reach the floor. That's okay. And then bend your knees, look forward on your exhale. Take as many steps as you need to come to the top edge of your mat into your standing forward fold. Now, if you'd like more support, you could rest your elbows on your knees or your thighs. Maybe you clasp opposite elbows with hands. You could sway a little bit from side to side. If you have blocks, you could bring the floor up to you, okay? Giving yourself that little bit of extra grace. Last few breaths here. Make sure your knees aren't caving in, right? They're not knocking. Can you track them out toward the baby toe edges of your feet just a little bit? So you'll feel this in the outer hip. And then release your hands. Bring your fingertips to your shins. Inhale, a little partway lift. Exhale, full. 2 more. Back the neck stays long, so try not to look forward as you lift up. Just keep looking down. And then bend your knees. Tuck your chin into your chest slowly. Roll up to standing. 1 vertebra at a time. As slow as you need to go. Till you come up. Take a couple loops of your shoulders up, back, and down. A little wiggle noodle, or shake out. And then let's start to move. Inhale, sweep the arms up to the sky. Maybe follow with your gaze. Exhale, dive or fold down to the earth. Standing forward, fold. Fingertips to shins. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. Bend your knees, plant your hands. On your inhale, step back to plank. So the top of a push-up, either from your toes or from your knees. And if neither of those will work for you, you could be on your forearms instead. So a couple more breaths wherever you need to be in your plank. Squeeze your bum, squeeze the tops of the thighs, draw the lower ribs up to the sky, but not the hips, right? So we're not piking. You also don't want the hips hanging. All right, look forward. You can always come down to your knees first as you exhale. Lower all the way down to the mat. A little wiggle of your hips from side to side once you get there. Untuck your toes. Press the tops of the feet into the earth so much so you feel your kneecaps lift away. Send your tailbone to the back wall. Feel your belly button engage toward your spine. Shoulder blades on your back. Inhale, lift your heart forward and up, baby cobra. Exhale, lower back down. So a couple more of these on your own time, on your own breath. Hands could hover. You could press them into the earth. You might take them off out onto the wood. But the higher you lift up, the more I want you to squeeze your bum, or at least to remember to. And then tuck your toes. Exhale, lift your hips all the way up and back. Downward facing dog. Bend your knees. Look forward. Exhale. Walk, step, or hop to the top edge of the mat. Standing forward, fold. Fingertips to shins. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. Charge your legs this time. Inhale, sweep all the way up to the sky. Exhale, hands to prayer. And then inhale to the sky. Exhale, dive or fold down to the earth, forward fold. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. And bend your knees, plant your hands. Inhale, step back to plank. Exhale, lower all the way or partway to the earth. Inhale through baby cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. On your inhale, lift your right leg high, three-legged dog. Make sure you're not opening the hips here. Wrap the outer right hip toward the earth. Spiral the inner right thigh up toward the sky. If I were to look back without the shirt dangling in front of me, I would be able to see my toes flexing to the earth rather than out toward the right. As you exhale, draw your knee to your nose, shoulders over wrists, hips high. Inhale, back up. Exhale, right knee to right armpit or elbow, hips high. Inhale, back up. Exhale, left knee, draw it over to the left side. Inhale, back up. Exhale, right knee to nose, and then pause. Can you lift your hips up a little bit higher? And then exhale, step your right foot to your thumb. Gently release your back knee to the earth. And then inhale, come up for a low lunge. So you can back out of the hips, shake it out, go off alignment. Right? In fact, go wherever you need to go. Till maybe you start to sink into the front knee. Really squeeze the bum on the back leg. Hands could rest on the front thigh, or you might sweep them up to the sky. As soon as we do this, we tend to dump into the low back. So make sure that it's steady, that you're not crunching into that space. And then grab hold of the sky with your right hand. Exhale, sweep your left hand to the earth, more or less in line with your front heel. Wrap both shoulders onto your back. Back knee could stay down, or you might charge it towards straight. You could take big sweeping shapes with the top arm, or you could be still. And on your inhale, unwind back to center. On your exhale, shift your hips back as you extend through the front leg for half split. So I'm trying to offset the blocks so you can see my legs. Little micro bend in that front knee. or even a deep bend. Your hand could be on a wall, hands could be on hips. Excuse me, maybe have blocks to bring underneath your hand, or maybe your fingertips comfortably reach the earth. If you have a deeper variation of splits, feel free to slide out where you would like to go. And then keep wrapping your outer left hip forward as you draw your outer right hip back. Flare the toes on the front foot, peel them back toward your face even more. And then notice if you're holding tension anywhere that you don't need to hold tension in. Excuse me. Got a little frog in my throat. All right. If you're all the way down in full splits, gently back out of it. Meet us in half splits. And then we'll link those two movements together. So as you inhale, rock forward, shift the weight forward, sink through the hips, low lunge. This is where hands on blocks becomes really useful. Exhale, shift your hips back. So a few of these on your own time, on your own breath. Inhale into lunge. Exhale, half splits. If you don't have blocks, hands could be on hips. It's going to be a little bit wobblier. And you're not necessarily getting a deep stretch in any single position, but we're lubricating the joints. Last breath here. All right, as you inhale, come back into that front knee. Plant your hands, tuck your back toes. Inhale, sweep that right leg up and back behind you again. Three-legged dog. Now you might stay here. You might choose to stack the hips now. Opening that top hip up to the sky. And then bend the knee, hug the heel toward the bum a little bit more. Option to stay here. Maybe you turn your left hand out a little bit more and then shift forward slightly so you're more in a high plank, and then start to roll open into your wild thing. Hips press up high, and then inhale mindfully. Come back, three-legged dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. You might stay here for a couple breaths or take a little flow. I'm going to have some water. All right. Let's meet back in downward facing dog. Now, on your inhale, lift your left leg high, three-legged dog. And then pause here. Again, maybe if you look back, you can see your toes flexing to the earth rather than out to the left. So wrap the outer left hip to the floor, spiral the inner left thigh up to the sky. Squeeze the bum a little bit more. Maybe you lift that leg slightly more. And then exhale. Bring your knee to your nose, shoulders over your wrists, hips high. Inhale, back up, three-legged dog. Exhale, left knee to left armpit or elbow, hips high. Inhale, back up. Exhale, over to the opposite side. Inhale, back up. Exhale, knee comes to nose, and then pause here. Really press the floor away from you. And then on your exhale, step your left foot to your thumb. Release your back knee to the floor, or any padding you might have. And on your inhale, come up to lunge. Now again, you can back out of it, go off alignment, go wherever you need to go, so that you can start to sink into the front knee. Even here, you might have hands on blocks. You might be resting your hands on the front thigh, or maybe the arms float up to the sky. But really squeeze the bum on the back leg. So we're getting into the hip flexors and the quads. If the arms are lifted, chill out on the shrug muscles a little bit. And then grab hold of the sky with your left hand this time. Exhale, twist the right hand to the earth, or maybe a block. And then twist to the front knee. Make sure that bottom shoulder isn't jutting forward. Wrap it onto your back. Back knee could stay down, it could be lifted. You might take big windmills with the top arm. Go where you need to go. And then slowly inhale, unwind, come back to center, release your knee to the earth if it's lifted. And then on your exhale, shift your hips back as you extend through your front leg. Again, hands could be on hips or a wall or blocks. If you have a deeper variation of a splits, feel free to go where you need to go. Now, if hands on hips are super wobbly and you don't have blocks or a wall, bend the knee a little bit more so that your fingertips can come to the earth for stability. You're still getting all of the goodness of a hamstring stretch, even with the knee bent. Flare the toes on the front foot, peel them back toward your face a little bit more. And then imagine that you're trying to drag your front heel back toward you for a couple breaths. All right, my friends, we're all the way down in full splits. Come back up into half splits, in, and then on your inhale, rock forward, shift the hips, come into low lunge. Exhale, hips go back, extend through the front leg, half splits. So again, this is where I really like to use blocks because I feel like fingertips on the floor, though accessible, just feels a little bit too deep for me. My goodness. Sorry, I'm coughing the whole way through this. Last full round here. And then on your next inhale, rock forward. Plant your hands. Tuck your back toes. Inhale, sweep the left leg up and back. Three-legged dog. And again, you might just pause here. You might open that top hip a little bit more, stacking the hips. You can keep the leg straight, or you might bend it, hugging the heel toward the bum a little bit more. And then maybe, if you have the space, you turn your right hand out a touch more. Shift forward slightly into a plank first, and then roll over into your wild thing, hips high, and then inhale back into three-legged dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. You could stay here, you could flow, you could take child's pose, wherever you need to go. Last couple breaths, wherever you've landed, whether it's in movement or in stillness. If you're in child's pose, all you have to do is slither forward onto your belly. If you're in downward facing dog, inhale, ripple forward, high plank, and then exhale, lower all the way down to the earth. Little wiggle of the hips from side to side once you get here. Untuck the toes, and then inhale, lift the heart forward and up, baby cobra. You might stay here, really pressing the tops of the feet into the earth. You might reach your arms back along beside you. Palms could be up or down. Back the neck stays long, so try not to lift the chin forward. Some of you might start to reach your feet so far back that they de-weight as well, coming into one long line of locust. Think of reaching your toes, your fingertips back even more. Maybe you inhale, lift everything up, and then exhale, release all the way down. One cheek to the earth. Deep belly breath to release through the lower back. And then on your inhale, roll over onto your back. Obviously, you can take a couple breaths to do this. And then once you're on your back, bend your knees, plant your feet about hip width apart, parallel-ish and close enough into your bum that you can tickle your heels with your fingertips. Wrap your shoulder blades onto your back. And then make sure, now that you've set up for bridge, keep your head still. And then drive through your heels a little bit more. Inhale, lift up into bridge. And then pause. At the top of your bridge, it could be a couple inches off the floor. It could be up really high. You might choose to walk onto the outside edge of the shoulders. Maybe you clasp your hands behind the back, lifting the hips up even more. Squeeze the bum. And if your hands are clasped, unclasp them, and then exhale, lower all the way down to the earth. Pause here for a couple moments. And then draw your knees into your chest. Take a little rock from side to side. You know me, I love to end with a twist. So take your right arm out to the side. Maybe you shift your hips right a little bit to start with. And then exhale, lower your knees to the left. As always, you could take any variation of twist that you'd like to, whether the knees are stacked, maybe a single leg twist or cross legs. You could bring a block or a pillow between your knees or underneath your bottom thigh. You might even look along your right arm just to finish off the spiral in the neck. Last breath here. Inhale, return to center, reset your pelvis and your spine. Maybe take your left arm out to the side, maybe shift the hips left a little bit, and then exhale, lower your knees to the right. What does the shift of the hips do? Well, it just means that you're more able to stack your hips in the twist without having to really reach for the twist. For me, it just makes it more accessible. And it's something that we learned back in the day when there were maybe 50, 60, 80 people, however many people in a yoga class, and you didn't want to end up using someone else's mat. Last couple breaths here, wherever you need to be. And on your inhale, return to center. Reset your pelvis and your spine. And then start to make your way into your final resting pose. If you have blocks, you could bring them behind the lower thighs so that you have a little release for the lumbar spine as you lay back here. Can feel super nice, or pillows even. You might choose to rest flat on your back, legs bent or straight. You could rest on your side, or child's pose, or a seated meditation. And as always, there's no rush to get to your final resting pose. But once you're there, for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. And exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. And let go of your breath control. And return to your natural breath, slow and sweet. Let go of any last muscle gripping or tension, particularly in your neck or your jaw. And with each exhale, let your body melt a little bit deeper into the earth. And stay here longer if you can, 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.